This is Texas News Now, sponsored by Germania Insurance.
In Austin, I'm Mark Mullins. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton marked Monday's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday by issuing a lengthy legal opinion attacking DEI policies. He also took aim at U.S. Senator John Cornyn, who he'll face for Cornyn in the Republican primary. This all comes amid an intensifying Texas Republican Senate primary showdown. Reporter Jessica Cha breaks down the opinion and how lawmakers are reacting to it.
On MLK Day, Attorney General Ken Paxton released a 75-page legal opinion stating that DEI has no place in Texas. In the opinion and adjacent press release, he says DEI frameworks that have, quote, invaded every school system and the state and federal government are unconstitutional. And the action to dismantle DEI in Texas helps fulfill the vision articulated by Martin Luther King Jr.
My initial reaction was disgust. To read that letter on a day that we celebrate Martin Luther King Day.
State Representative Ron Reynolds is chair of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus.
I think this was intentional. I think he did this to get media attention.
The opinion also attacks Senator John Cornyn. It cites a 1999 opinion he issued when he served as Attorney General, where he declined to comment on the use of race in financial aid decisions by public universities and withdrew a previous AG's opinion on it. The opinion says that has allowed DEI policies to go unchecked. On X, Cornyn replied to the attack saying, quote, a competent attorney general would know that the retraction was on incomplete guidance due to litigation, so there's nothing to overturn and is a waste of taxpayer dollars, unquote. Democratic Representative Ron Reynolds agrees, calling it a calculated political move.
This opinion basically was designed to undermine Senator Cornyn, who he's in a Republican primary with. He's using black and brown and minorities as political pawns for his MAGA base.
In the bulk of the opinion, Paxton argues that private companies in Texas engage in, quote, woke DEI practices, referencing programs like the Historically Underutilized Business Program, or HUB, and Affirmative Action, which considers sex and race in hiring practices and prioritizes certain businesses for public contracts based on race and sex. Paxton says that can create hostile work environments and create stereotypes. But Reynolds says programs like HUB are based on real disparity studies where minorities and women have historically underperformed.
It's to create a level playing field when it comes to procurement for government contracts. It gives opportunities. And so this is really, I hate to say it, but this is really terrible BS.
In the letter, Paxton says they'd hold anyone accountable for continuing to use DEI frameworks. And while not legally binding, Reynolds fears that this could set a dangerous precedent.
I'm afraid starting tomorrow, after the holiday, many companies will be afraid to have DEI policies. This is going to be a real dark day for a state as diverse as Texas.
And that was Jessica Cha reporting. One of the biggest outstanding questions about this opinion is who asked for it. Under Texas law, the AG's office issues opinions in response to requests from lawmakers or state executives. In this case, they did not give any information about who requested it. We reached out to the Attorney General for comment, and we are waiting to hear back. In honor of MLK Day, a crowd gathered at the Texas Capitol to celebrate before they marched to Houston-Tillotson University. Reporter Kelsey Sanchez was there.
Racism should be stopped by treating people fairly and with kindness.
A powerful message from a young voice. Fourth grader Queen Williams addressing this crowd on Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Dr. King said, people should not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
She joined others, raising their voices to honor the civil rights leader's life and work.
It takes real power to respect humanity where you disagree. And that tension, that is the democracy that we actually want. That is MLK's actual dream.
Following the messages of hope for peace, equality, and justice, the crowd sang songs and eventually took to the streets.
They need to know what he did for us.
To march to keep the message going.
That they have a future that life is about faith, hope, and love, and that they can just grow up to be what God wants them to be.
A day ending in celebration and unity. In downtown Austin, Kelsey Sanchez, KVUE News.
Well, people in Leander and Cedar Park came together for a march and celebration honoring Dr. King. Organizers say this is the 5th celebration in Leander, and this year they invited their neighbors from Cedar Park to join in. People came out to the Cedar Park Recreation Center for a day of service, food, and activities. Organizers say they want to see more events like this, not only to honor Dr. King, but to bring people of different backgrounds together.
Is that Dr. Martin Luther King had a great legacy, and I really honestly believe that if people would come together, we could actually have this in our everyday life and not just on MLK Day.
Volunteers put together hygiene kits for the community with student-led Austin nonprofit, the Healthy Hygiene Project, and Leander's Brighter Days Food Pantry collected food at the celebration. A nonprofit dedicated to improving safety for UT students says its West Campus community space may be forced to close. Reporter Brianna Perez shows us how Safe Horns is helping students and how you can get involved.
Students walking to campus on West 23rd Street pass by Safe Horns Place daily.
This space has been made a tremendous impact to the community because we're in the heart of the neighborhood.
Safe Horns opened the space nearly 2 years ago, using it to host educational events, self-defense workshops, and community activities. Tucked in the basement of the Congregational Church, organizers describe it as a safe space for students, and those who have visited agree.
Students can obviously feel left out or they don't fit in. And this organization provides that support just to make sure you're safe in whatever you do, whatever you're involved with.
President Joelle McNew says the organization was created after the 2016 death of UT student Erica Weiser, who was killed while walking home from campus. Since then, it has been Safe Horns' mission to keep students safe and help revitalize the area.
It was a place where people did not feel comfortable walking through here for years. And they would always express, even parents visiting, they did not feel safe walking outside in this area.
McNew says Safe Horns relies on donations to keep their doors open, but with funding running low, she turns to the community for help.
It helps us to continue our mission in a bigger way if we can stay in this space, and the only way we can do that is with donations.
Their goal is to raise $75,000 to keep them operating through the end of the year. For more ways to get involved, you can visit KVUE.com. In Austin, Brianna Perez, KVUE News.
And those are the headlines in Austin. I'm Mark Mullins.
I'm Chris Lawrence with your headlines from North Texas. A busy highway is back open despite concerns it wouldn't be ready for the work week. Crews worked on a major project on I-30 in downtown Dallas last weekend, shutting down lanes in both directions. But commuters shouldn't exhale just yet. As Kevin Reese reports, work on this stretch of road is far from over.
TxDOT tells us the weekend went as planned, closing I-30 through downtown Dallas the entire weekend gave them the destructive freedom they needed.
It's amazing the manpower they put behind it, for sure.
On Sunday, Kayla Newberry stopped to watch the small army at work.
It's needed because, yes, the city's growing, but it is still an inconvenience at the same time because you have to give up some of the things you're used to.
I'm standing on Harwood, one of the bridges that will still get you across I-30 here in downtown Dallas. Thank you very much. But to the east, you can see that Cesar Chavez and the tangle of bridges connected to it are gone, at least on the westbound lanes. And over to the west, the lid deck on Cadiz Street is gone, but the rest of it's scheduled to come down as more weekend closures are expected as this major project continues.
Looking at the video of before and after drives westbound on I-30, you can see the difference in the open skies and the bridges gone. But this was just the start of the $888 million project. As for the need to set up that detour again, where the weekend traffic was diverted to the Woodall-Rogers Freeway instead.
We are planning another one coming up within about the next month, and then we'll schedule additional ones as needed throughout the project.
TxDOT telling us today that weather this coming weekend could be a factor. They're assessing just how cold it could be, before they decide when the next round of closures might happen. But you can expect delays and detours to happen again. All of this and the improvements to come could last for the next 2 to 4 years. In Dallas, I'm Kevin Reese.
Anti-violence activists are reacting in Fort Worth after police made an arrest in the murder of a teenage girl. As Brittany Costello reports, she was shot and killed last month at the city's historic Stop 6 Park.
Fort Worth police arrested 18-year-old Rico Henderson nearly 3 weeks after a shooting at historic Stop 6 Park. Dunbar High School senior 17-year-old Sienna Boone was killed.
You hit somebody that wasn't your target, and you took something from a family that really loves somebody.
A young man died too. Police believe someone drove this black car from the park to a neighborhood nearby. It's where 18-year-old Frank Price Jr. was found shot. He died at the hospital.
Not only one child life is lost, one child is lost for life.
The shooting is upsetting for Anthony and Antonio Harris, who grew up in Southeast Fort Worth.
We are tired of the senseless murders.
They are longtime advocates for creating a safer community.
Everybody is affected, directly or indirectly.
They were in the room and streaming on their phone when Councilwoman Deborah Peoples rallied the community to search for solutions more than a week ago.
We are actually here at the town hall meeting.
Antonio Harris says he came out of that Stop 6 safety meeting with his own ideas on how to reach the people who need help most.
Our biggest problem with our youth is first, they don't love themselves. They don't love others, and we're losing them because of that.
The conversation is far from over, with 2 teens dead and a third staring down a murder charge. Harris says it's time to do even more to stop what he calls senseless gun violence.
It is our duty, job, and obligation as being community, period, as being humans, period.
In Fort Worth, I'm Brittany Costello.
For nearly 2 decades now, the Dallas Mavericks have hosted an event to support those who support all of us. As Jonah Javod reports, season ticket holders give up their seats to make it possible.
It just really hits home just how grateful we need to be.
Oh, say, can you see?
On a night typically reserved for basketball, the Dallas Mavericks made room for something bigger.
A little thank you, a recognition.
On Friday night, the Mavs recognized more than 100 military members, including 21 Purple Heart veterans, for this year's edition of Seats for Heroes.
This whole experience, sir, is just awesome.
The annual event is older than rookie phenom Cooper Flagg.
And this is what the Mavs have done for 19 years and many more years to come.
You know, the hospitality. You know, I've never actually experienced anything like this.
I definitely feel like the red carpet has been laid out for us.
The day began in San Antonio, where the entire group of servicemen and women currently receive medical treatment.
It's going to be a long day, but I think it's going to be a great day.
They boarded a chartered flight, courtesy of American Airlines, and flew to Dallas, where they were welcomed by a water cannon salute and supporters at the gate. Upon arrival, they made their way to Nick and Sam's for a feast, a chance to connect and share their stories.
I came out of service probably about 2024, really just focusing on my mental health and getting better.
I'm a brand new person. I can actually function. I don't have to, give myself timeouts.
Then it was game time and front row seats to see the Mavericks play the Jazz.
But I will say Klay Thompson is one of my favorite players, so I'm excited to be on the court, down court side.
You want to sign my jacket instead? Yeah, I'll sign your jacket. It's one of a kind. Yeah, bro.
After the game, it was time for autographs and, of course, pictures. But for many of those from our nation's armed forces, it was not just a game, but a reminder that their service hasn't gone unnoticed.
When stuff like this, it really does show appreciation. I wish there was more organizations that did reach out and did stuff like this.
It shows the importance of community and just the fact that, your veterans and your military members aren't being left behind.
I'm an Iraqi veteran, so it feels like they
they forgot about us a long time ago. So when these little things do get to come up, you just feel like a kid again.
We don't get to do this without what they do. You know, they put their lives on the line for us so that, you know, we can just come and do things that we think are fun.
19 times the Mavs have hosted Seats for Heroes.
They did exactly what I wanted them to do, win.
17 of those games ended with a Mavericks win, including Friday night.
Great seats, good entertainment, good company, great.
In Dallas, I'm Jonah Javad.
What a great way to not only say thank you, but show it too. And those are your headlines from North Texas.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at yourmediainsurance.com.
Bill Taylor here with Texas News Now weather. And since we're only in the first month of 2026, I want to show you the disasters and the billions of dollars of 2025. Check this out. We ranked in the 3rd place of all-time number of disasters in 2025, with 2023 being first, 24, and now 25, 3rd highest, and 6th in the costliest amount of disasters. And again, this is in the United States for 2025. Incredible. And now look at this. With billions of dollars, we're talking about $115 billion in damages over 23 different weather events. January of 2025 and the LA fires were $61.2 billion in damage, twice as costly as previous wildfire records. And then the severe thunderstorm damage totaled up $21 billion in the spring and summer across mainly the Central Plains. Incredible. All right, let's talk about a huge weather shift coming this week in Texas. We've got an Arctic blast on the way, and this huge pool of precipitation arrives on Friday night and into Saturday. And that's when we should see things start changing over, because we're going to have a major Arctic blast of colder air descending south from Canada and hitting the Lone Star State. So temperatures are going to plummet. I mean, from Thursday, Friday into Saturday, Sunday, it'll be a good 30 to 40 degree swing as we unlock some of this Arctic air from Canada. Let's take a look at the precipitation, though. That's what's going to impact you most. I mean, temperatures are going to be very cold, but we could see a few scattered showers develop into Wednesday morning. I think mainly East Texas is going to see this rainfall. Once you get from the 35 corridor west, things are going to be pretty dry, a bit on the cloudy side, and we sweep that front out. And for Thursday, Friday, pretty quiet. We'll see a few areas of light rain on Thursday morning around Houston and southeast Texas. That moves up to North Texas as we get into 7 a.m. Friday and extending down into central counties of the state. Now things start changing. Once we get into Saturday morning, as early as Friday night, some of this precip's going to start changing over as that colder air spills in. And especially the I-35 corridor, all the pink is going to be the freezing rain and sleet mix. And that changes over to liquid once you get down to the state capitol and into San Antonio Saturday morning. Now, moving into Saturday night, that's when you see a little bit of this wintry precip go farther down I-35, start impacting Austin, maybe into San Antonio. It'll definitely be affecting most of the I-35 corridor. North Texas, it switches over to snow flurries. And we could, if we get cold enough air in place, see some decent accumulation. I wouldn't expect anything in the 1 to 2 feet category for sure. But maybe a few, I would say like an inch is going to be possible, especially North Texas of seeing snow stick on the ground. And then even Sunday morning, there'll be a sliver of precipitation left over before we dry things out. But that's when temperatures will probably be the coldest. So at least the precipitation is thinning out as we get the coldest air in place. When we look at the extended forecast, you're going to really see things drop off quickly. Most of this week is mild, but look at the difference once we hit Friday. A high of only 38 in Lubbock, 47 Dallas, and then Saturday. Look at those numbers. Corpus Christi sticks out, as does McAllen's 74, but the high in Dallas could be 29 on Saturday. Wow, staying below freezing, 35 the high Saturday in Austin, 38 in Houston. So some very cold air, even 36 in San Antonio. And then on Sunday, notice that freezing will be the high in Dallas, 37 in Houston, 41 in Lubbock. So again, very cold air coming in for this weekend. And then on Monday, we start recovering, especially getting a little bit more sunshine as we would hope. All right, for Texas News Now weather, I'm Bill Taylor.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at yourmediainsurance.com.
Let's take a look at today's headlines from Houston. Hello, I'm Len Cannon. An abandoned Spring Branch area apartment complex plagued by fires and other problems will soon be history. City leaders will have a news conference this week, but our Jason Miles has details on plans now.
Despite signs warning people to keep out and razor wire making it difficult not to do so, the former Park on Westview apartments have attracted all sorts of problems, from arson to vandalism.
That's why we are really excited to tear down this vacant complex.
Houston City Council member Amy Peck met me on the property today ahead of a news conference tomorrow, during which a multi-year, multi-million-dollar transformation will be announced following the property's purchase by the area's tax increment reinvestment zone and collaboration with the city.
We're going to use this property as flooding mitigation, and then it will also be the future home of a new police station for the Northwest Division and a new fire station as well.
That will replace a current fire station that's responded, along with others, to multiple blazes here over the years, including this one last fall. This strip center sits right next to the complex, and business owners tell me it's long been a nuisance.
The complex has been abandoned ever since I bought this place.
Carlos Gonzalez owns Moreliana Mexican Cafe and Ice Cream Shop and says nothing would be sweeter than to see bulldozers roll in next door.
I'm ready to hear what's going to happen because I'm ready to clear. I hope they clean it up because it is a big problem.
Peck tells me demolition should begin within a couple of months as the planning stages for what comes next continue.
In the long run, this is going to be completely different. It is going to be so positive for the community.
In the Spring Branch area, Jason Miles, KHOU 11 News.
Over the weekend, another large crowd of protesters hit the streets of Houston's Galleria area, calling for an end of the regime in Iran. Many of the demonstrators are from that country and still have family there. Orko Amana spoke to several of them about their hopes for the future.
At least a couple thousand demonstrators gathering this afternoon near the water wall in Houston, protesting against the regime in Iran. Their calls for change coming after weeks of anti-government protests in Iran that have turned deadly.
How worried are you for your family there?
I was worried like hell.
This woman, like so many in the crowd, has loved ones in Iran fighting for justice. But the country's internet blackout now means fear and uncertainty.
I knew that my mother, 75 years old lady, she was going to the protests herself. And I was very worried that if she's alive or not. Fortunately, she's fine. However, I didn't have any news from my parents for like 5-6 days.
The protesters spilling into the streets for a march through the Galleria area.
We want justice!
Chanting and holding signs. They're demanding new leadership in their home country.
We need the Shah back. We want the Shah back. He's the best person for the job. That's what we're here for. That's what we're fighting for.
Many here want U.S. intervention in Iran. calling on the president to get involved.
What do you want to see from the United States in Iran?
Support. I want to see the support.
But not everyone agrees.
I'm just terrified that as an American as well, it's not really our place to force another country to have a certain kind of government.
With flags held high, even despite differing opinions, everyone here wants one thing.
I hope that Iran would be a free country.
In Houston, Orko Manna, KHOU 11 News.
Earlier this week, Houston honored Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. during its first ever Unity Parade, the city's first unified event after more than 30 years of hosting two separate parades. Agochi Iloko was there and has more.
On display today for the rest of the country is see the unity that is alive and well in Houston, Texas.
Houston Mayor John Whitmire, who served as one of the Grand Marshals, stressed how for the first time in 3 decades, Houstonians didn't have to choose between two MLK Day parades. This man was the first person out here at 4 a.m. waiting for the festivities to start.
Can you tell us why you got here so early?
I feel that Martin Luther King is worth it, and he did so much for us, and I just wanted to show my appreciation.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s nephew spoke at the pre-parade ceremony about the support shown for his beloved uncle.
The presence of Martin Luther King Jr. is sitting between what used to be something that no longer will be.
Parade goers I spoke to, including this mom whose daughters are in the parade, felt it was important to be here.
I have twin girls and they're performing with the Green Starlets. They're part of the Girl Scouts of St. Jacinto.
And I felt it was very important, especially during these times, for them to come.
What message do you think should reign today?
Unity. Everybody needs to come together. It's a lot going on in the world.
That's why parade chairman Charles Stamps, who is one of the other Grand Marshals, says they'll continue this tradition of one MLK Day parade for Houston moving forward.
Be assured that this may be our inaugural event, but it certainly won't be our last one.
Finally, one parade in Houston. That is a wrap of your Houston headlines. I'm Len Cannon.
Hi, I'm Leslie Adamy in Corpus Christi, and here's a look at some of what's happening here in South Texas. A pause in the Adrian Gonzalez trial gave both sides more time to prepare. The former Uvalde school police officer faces 29 counts of child endangerment in the horrific Robb Elementary School shooting. Now, many from all over have been closely watching this case unfold over the last 2 weeks, including a South Texas legal expert who's weighing in on what all we have seen so far and what could still be ahead. Bill Churchwell has that perspective.
It is possible that when he gets here, he doesn't see the shooter.
Last week ended with jurors watching a powerful animation synced up to chilling radio chatter from officers and a 911 call. A Texas Ranger testified that the gunman fired 117 rounds into 2 elementary classrooms, all within a 2-minute window, before officers ever made contact. During the trial, while Gonzalez has not taken the stand, we did hear his recorded interview with investigators just after the shooting.
Now that I can sit back, I went tunnel vision, like I said, with the lady that was running. Like I said, they said they were running to the school, and that's where I saw, and I knocked in. That was my mistake.
So yes, I knew I was shot.
This comes after days of intense and emotional testimony as prosecutors zero in on those critical moments when they say action should have been taken.
I told him that he needed to get stopped before he went into the fourth grade, but
The pain that day impossible to ignore in the courtroom, including this emotional outburst from the sister of one of the victims who had to be escorted out. Legal experts across the state are closely watching. Attorney Matt Manning says despite the heartbreaking testimony, the case remains a steep climb for prosecutors.
Just in terms of the evidence that's been put forward, the difficult thing about this case is it's extraordinarily tragic. It's very, very difficult, the subject matter, but from a legal standpoint, it's kind of an abnormal application of the law that's at hand.
Gonzalez, along with former school police chief Pete Arredondo, are the only two officers criminally indicted for their inactions that day out of nearly 400 law enforcement officers who responded, waiting 77 minutes before the shooter was killed. The defense argues Gonzalez is being blamed for a broader law enforcement failure.
The world knows about the case. They know that there were a lot of officers there, and I think that just starts with a fundamental premise where it makes it difficult to know exactly how the jury is going to factor that in.
That was our Bill Churchwell reporting. And in just a matter of days, 2 separate crashes have claimed 6 lives, including 2 children, shaking the tight-knit community of Robstown. Our Lydia Herrera shows us how residents are rallying to support families who are left grieving.
Robstown Mayor Marianne Saenz says it's a difficult time for the community, but city leaders are standing with the families affected.
I want my community, mi pueblo, to know that we are here, the city of Robstown, myself, mayor, and the city council are here to support all the families in this need, to support my community and everyone that was involved in some small or great part in these tragedies that have recently occurred. That we're here. We're here to stand together. We're here to provide love, compassion. We care about our community, we care about our citizens, and just to know that the city stands behind all my community during this time.
According to Texas Department of Public Safety, Sergeant Rob Mallory, troopers were called to a 2-vehicle crash around 9:44 p.m. Thursday at County Road 77 and County Road 36. Mallory confirmed that Randy Rubio and 2 children, ages 12 and 4, have passed away in this crash. In a separate crash Saturday afternoon, the Victoria Police Department said an 18-wheeler and multiple vehicles collided on U.S. Highway 59 northbound at Hill Road. Police said 3 people were killed and 4 others were injured. The crash remains under investigation. Mayor Saenz confirmed 3 of those killed were from Robstown.
They were all students. They were all community members. There was a teacher. There was a young man, driver. There was an engineer. And there was a father. So they have all touched our community in some way, small or large. And so I want to honor them in a vigil from the city in a small way. That what else can we do except pray? Come together as a community and pray for these people that have lost their lives and the families that continue to grieve over them.
In Corpus Christi, I'm Leslie Adamy.
Hi, I'm Brennan Gurley, and here's what's making headlines across East Texas. Hundreds filled the streets of Tyler for the 4th annual MLK March hosted by the Tyler Together Race Relations Forum. CBS 19's Ayanna Aird was there and shows us how the community came together in unity.
It was honestly a beautiful sight to see this morning as hundreds came together to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. With the weather being perfect, this community filled the streets of downtown Tyler, walking together in remembrance and unity.
We're giving a great homage to Dr. King.
Education, really democracy, everything that he stood for still needs. It is worth fighting for today.
Today marks the 40th year that Tyler has come together in the Martin Luther King March.
I think the crowd has gotten larger. The diversity of the crowd has gotten larger, definitely. And so it's always so good to feel the unity, and the hope is that that unity continues after today.
I was born in 1953. I grew up in racially segregated Tyler, Texas. If it were not for Dr. King and the others who marched with him, it's possible either that would not have happened or it would have been prolonged. So I've reaped so many benefits as a result of what Dr. King did and others during his time.
Dr. King did made the United States a better nation. It made it a more diversified, strong, strengthened it, all those wonderful things that brought everybody together to make it the melting pot.
And one of the mottos that was very true during that time is that we shall overcome. And Dr. King was very influential on that. And that's what it's about today, is that we continue to remember as a people that we shall overcome.
The march served as a powerful reminder of Dr. King's legacy and his message of service, equality, and unity. In Tyler, I'm Ayana Aird for CBS 19.
What started as a way to find peace during the pandemic turned into something much bigger. CBS 19's Robert De La Garza shares the story of a young East Texas man whose voice is creating opportunity not just for himself, but for others too.
For most of us, discovering your voice in life is something you find over time. But for Odin Frost, it found him.
He lives with autism and cerebral palsy, and he has apraxia, which means it's harder for him to speak verbally.
But his dad, Tim, says despite the diagnosis, Odin has no intellectual disabilities.
The more you're around Odin, the more people get to see how beautifully he understands and is in tune with the world.
During the pandemic, Tim began documenting small moments of their family's life. And what started as a social vlog on his private Instagram page flourished into a following that's become worldwide.
Either educates other people about autism, about disabilities, about inclusion, for people like Odin.
They now have over 100,000 followers.
We always try to be as honest and authentic as we can on there to represent his voice beautifully. And with that, he has been getting these really beautiful opportunities.
And opportunities did come calling. Odin was asked to be part of a children's TV series called Carl the Collector, a show based on a raccoon with autism, and one his family already loved.
Parents like us feel the authenticity of real representation, and we had never seen anything like that on any kind of a TV show.
He was asked to voice a character named Paolo who uses an iPad to communicate, just like Odin. And from his own bedroom, Odin recorded every track himself. Authentic, honest, and unmistakably Odin.
Yeah. From the very first sound bite that you hear of Odin, I started crying. I was bawling. My wife was crying, and Odin's going, woo! Oh, woo! That's me!
He's made history, becoming the first non-speaking person to ever voice a character on a syndicated cartoon.
It actually opens the door for Odin and people like him who may want to be voice actors.
Showing his disability is not a limitation, but an opportunity.
The community that surrounds and lifts us up when we're down helps us to remind us why we try, why we work so hard to give him the life that he deserves.
Odin didn't just find his voice, but he's making sure others know theirs matters too. For CBS 19, I'm Robert De La Garza.
And that's a wrap of your East Texas headlines. I'm Brennan Gurley.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at yourmediainsurance.com.
I'm Isis Romero, and this is the news in San Antonio. There are new developments in the search for a man wanted in the death of a 17-year-old at a house party in September. The Bexar County Sheriff's Office says he was found dead early Saturday morning. Rania Kaur has the latest.
For the past few months, the Bexar County Sheriff's Office has been offering a $5,000 reward for Deshaun Suggs. The 18-year-old was accused of murdering 17-year-old Aliana Ujeda back in September. According to BCSO, Ujeda was at a house party on Lucky Road on September 28th when she was shot and killed. Deputies say she was also run over by a truck and found dead in the road. They say Deshaun Suggs was connected with her death and put a Crime Stoppers reward for anyone that could help lead to an arrest. This past Saturday, San Antonio police found Suggs dead, shot in the head in a vehicle. Officers were responding to a shooting around 4:13 in the morning on Tiger Field on the far west side. That's where they found him. At this point, there is still a lot of questions remaining, like what led up to the shooting and who killed him. We'll keep you updated as we learn more information. Rania Kaur, KENS 5.
Pearsall ISD is mourning the loss of 2 graduates who died in a crash on Saturday. KENS 5's Earl Stoudemire shares what we know about the victims.
The Frio County Sheriff's Office has identified 18-year-old James Tavera and 19-year-old Gabriel Carrizales as the victims of a fatal crash Saturday evening. The city of Pearsall says the crash happened near 5:45 p.m. at the intersection of North Oak Street and East Trinity Street. Pearsall PD says a white Ford truck collided with a gray Scion sedan at this intersection. The driver in the truck is expected to survive. The driver in the Scion was taken to a San Antonio hospital where he's in critical condition. The Frio County Sheriff's Office says Tavera and Carrizales were passengers in the Scion. They were rushed to the Frio Regional Hospital, but both died from their injuries. Yesterday, Pearsall High School released a statement saying their hearts are heavy, mourning the loss of their former students. The school will have counselors available tomorrow for anyone needing support. The crash is still an open investigation. No charges have been issued to either driver. Earl Stoudemire, KENS 5.
Crime Stoppers is asking for your help to solve a hit and run that left someone injured. It happened December 30th at the Rim. Police provided this stock image of the suspect's vehicle. Investigators are trying to identify and locate the suspect or suspects responsible. Crime Stoppers is offering up to $5,000 for information that leads to an arrest. Thousands braved chilly temperatures to take part in San Antonio's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. This is the 39th annual march. Olympic gymnast Gabby Douglas served as this year's keynote speaker, and Grammy-winning artist Coco Jones performed when the march concluded at Pittman Sullivan Park. Organizers and marchers called for social, political, and economic change. And alongside those marchers, a push for prayers and peace in the Middle East. Zach Briggs caught up with one woman reacting to the violence in Iran.
The MLK March is a safe haven.
Thousands in San Antonio marching for justice and equality in the name of Martin Luther King Jr.
Everyone that is there puts all of their differences aside.
Mojgan Pana, alongside the crowds this morning, couldn't help but think of the chaos and bloodshed in her home country of Iran.
The only wish that I've had, as long as I can remember, is for a free Iran. What we do every Martin Luther King Day is what Iranians have been doing for the past, few weeks, and they're getting killed and shot at.
Since late December, Iranians have protested the authoritarian government over economic hardship, human rights, and desire for fundamental freedoms. Thousands killed and arrested amid the turmoil.
It's brutal. It's very hard to watch. Things that we take for granted here are not the norm in Iran. The people are living uncomfortably. The people cannot afford food. The people cannot dress as they wish, think as they wish, love as they wish.
Cut off from the world, the communications blackout enacted by Iranian authorities has only heightened anxiety and fear for Pana and others who wonder whether their loved ones are alive.
It's very hard to know that your loved ones, your relatives, and even strangers are living through this horror. Are they getting the electricity? Are they getting the water? Are they getting the food? Are they safe? We're basically sitting on the sidelines just waiting to see what happens.
But this morning, there was a sign of hope.
I noticed one of my cousins was on social media, and I sent them a quick message. I said, I'm glad to see you here, and they sent me a quick line back and said, we're all okay.
Zach Briggs, KENS 5.
Latin superstar Peso Pluma is coming to San Antonio with one of the most anticipated concert stops of the year. The chart-topping artist, known for blending regional Mexican music with modern hip-hop, is expected to draw a sold-out crowd. He'll take the stage at the Frost Bank Center on April 3rd, that's a Friday. Pre-sale tickets go on sale on Wednesday. And that's the news in San Antonio.
I'm Lindsay Littman. Here are your headlines from Central Texas. Hundreds gathered in Killeen to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., including Killeen's younger citizens. Sydney Walker has more on the annual march held by Killeen's NAACP Youth Council.
This Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Happy MLK Day.
The young were at the gates.
My daughter, who serves as the Killeen Youth Council president, she's like, Mommy, we want to lead it this year.
Tanika Moultrie and Killeen's NAACP typically plan the annual march, but they're passing the torch.
It was just a tremendous blessing and an honor to see our young people step up because they are our next generation of leaders.
And the kids showed up.
It's to show how we appreciate Martin Luther King Jr. All things to God right there.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Like Shoemaker High's Gray Wolves football teams.
Just like the football field, we do everything together. Every time we break out on family. So it's really about being a family and part of the Black community.
And generations.
Because it's fun.
Of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority girls.
To have our youth groups out with us, marching along with other organizations, it means a lot to us.
I feel like being here today can really show us that, show the people that we really want to be here and that our voices need to be heard.
Today was about more than just honoring the legacy of Dr. King. It was about continuing his mission.
He also asked us a question, what are you doing for others?
The kids had an answer.
Our youth took it a step further and they called it Feed the Dream. And so they've been collecting canned goods and non-perishable food items to be able to make an impact in their community.
And the dream continues on.
The unity, the love, the peace, and the atmosphere, everyone was just so happy to be out here. Even as we gathered at the flagpole to pray, people weren't trying to rush off and get home.
In Killeen, Sydney Walker, 6 News.
In Waco, dozens of people gathered as well for the annual MLK Jr. Peace March. It started at Indian Springs Park. Marchers took to the Suspension Bridge and then ended at Doris Miller Community Center. We spoke to one of the event organizers of the Delta Upsilon Zeta Waco chapter, who says the march is about uplifting the community.
We hold the principles and ideas of Dr. Martin Luther King, who also stated that division harms everyone. So we're here to work together, and we embrace every race, every age. It does not matter.
Well, the march started in Waco back in 1999. A major policy change is coming to military hospitals nationwide following the case surrounding suspended Fort Hood OBGYN Major Blaine McGraw. The Defense Health Agency has implemented new chaperone requirements, but advocates say more needs to be done. Juliana Jackson has the latest update on the story.
On December 15th, the Defense Health Agency shared a new policy requiring staff to offer chaperones before sensitive medical exams, a shift from the previous policy that only required facilities to accommodate patient requests. The policy defines chaperones as a, quote, impartial third party who will immediately report any suspected inappropriate conduct. The change comes after suspended Fort Hood OBGYN Major Blaine McGraw was charged with 54 counts of indecent visual recording involving 44 women. According to a petition filed in Bell County on December 10th by the Cobos law firm representing 82 plaintiffs, the petition alleges 17 times that there were no chaperones present during invasive exams by McGraw. The lawsuit argues the Army's old policy failed patients, placing the burden of protection on women who felt intimidated by a male field grade officer. Many women requested chaperones but were allegedly denied by McGraw. The petition states, quote, in countless encounters, McGraw examined women without gowns, without draping, and without any chaperone present. Under the new DHA policy, patients can request chaperones when scheduling or during appointments. Staff will make efforts to provide a chaperone of the preferred gender. The policy says if one isn't available, patients can reschedule. But advocates say the new policy doesn't go far enough. Shield of Sisters and the Cobos law firm brought 4 survivors to Capitol Hill, pushing Congress to make chaperones mandatory, not optional.
It's so encouraging that they're saying this is not a partisan issue. This is a human issue.
It should not be optional, nor should it be up to the discretion of
the individual who is receiving care.
The advocates are pushing 3 reforms: mandatory chaperones, expanded military sexual trauma definitions to include family members, and commander accountability for transferring problem service members without resolving issues.
We're not done until the last person says, I'm the last one who was assaulted in the military, and that's going to take a lot.
Dr. Paul Cordes with the Defense Health Agency says, quote, having chaperones available is a crucial part of patient-centered care. Chaperones can help protect both patients and healthcare staff. And those are your headlines from Central Texas.
Here are your headlines from Southeast Texas. I'm Mark Armstrong. Beaumont firefighters worked a house fire just outside of the western edge of the city early Monday morning. Crews, they responded around 6:30 to the 1800 block of Buena Vista Lane. Fire officials say the fire involved both a trailer and a nearby house. At one point, the interior roof of the trailer collapsed. Luckily, 3 people who lived in the home, they made it out safely before fire crews arrived. One firefighter suffered a minor injury and had to be taken in for treatment. Officials have not released any details. Jefferson County judge is hoping to fight gun violence through a new gun buyback event and a Stop the Violence rally. Precinct 6 Judge Ransom Deuce Jones, he says shootings and violence, they've gotten out of hand in Beaumont, especially for a city this size. He says after a recent meeting with Beaumont ISD, he spoke to the city manager, Kenneth Williams, about coming up with an idea to help local youth. He says they're now planning a gun buyback program on April 4th. It's going to be at several locations, including the Beaumont Civic Center, Magnolia Park, the Elma Willis Library, and the Sterling Pruitt Center. He says that he wants to meet residents where they are and exchange guns for money and amnesty.
They asked, why are you doing it? I said, well, I don't know, if I'm just scared. You know, I'm old. I don't want to be shot by a kid with what we can do. So I look at it. I keep saying it's parenting. Now, I'm not saying it's parenting, but it starts somewhere.
He says after the buyback event, there are plans to go to Charlton Pollard Park to host a Stop the Violence rally. We'll keep you posted on plans for both. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett made a campaign stop in Beaumont Saturday at the Hearsay Lounge in downtown. The Democrat for U.S. Senate spoke with voters about the issues impacting them. Her message focused on unity, no matter your skin color, ahead of MLK Day. Beaumont police still working to learn more about a weekend shooting at an apartment complex. They confirmed to 12 News that a man was shot at the Sunlight Manor apartment Sunday evening at Washington and 8th Street. Our 12 News crew at the scene was told by neighbors that 2 guys were involved in a disturbance and one of them shot the other in the leg. Our crew also saw an ambulance leaving the complex and detectives at the scene. BPD says no further information is going to be released at this time, so we'll keep you updated. Port Arthur police asking for the public's help in identifying a burglary suspect. Check out this video. This happened around 10 a.m. on the morning of January 12th. That was a week ago. This man burglarized what appears to be a home in the area of Sunken Court and Las Palmas Drive. So if you know who this guy is or you have any information, call Port Arthur Police or Crime Stoppers. You can remain anonymous and may be eligible for a cash reward. A 17-year-old now behind bars after he led several law enforcement agencies on a high-speed chase. It started over in Louisiana in Calcasieu Parish, and then it ended in a crash across the state line in Orange. Louisiana State Police say a trooper tried to stop a car for speeding and improper lane usage. The driver, well, didn't stop and led troopers on a chase reaching more than 100 miles an hour. Police say that the suspect, Anthony Laughlin, hit a van on I-10 in Louisiana. That chase ended near exit 877 when Laughlin crashed on Meeks Drive in Orange after trying to lose troopers through the parking lot behind a Tractor Supply store. He's charged with evading arrest. More charges are expected. Over the weekend, there was a break in the Joshua Larkin case. Newton County Sheriff Colton Havard says new evidence was found while searching a property outside of Kirbyville Saturday. Police found a pair of boots, cell phone, and a hoodie that matched what Larkin was last seen wearing. They were found during a large-scale search on a property on County Road 418 after a search warrant was obtained. Now, Larkin disappeared in November of 2022. At this point, officials have not said whether any human remains were recovered. And 2 men, they were arrested in his murder last year, Justin Taylor James and Jonathan Cody Beerhalter. According to court documents, James Alex Jones and Rodney Allen Blankenship, they're facing tampering with or fabricating evidence charges. The Beech Grove Volunteer Fire Department was called to save some duck hunters Sunday after their boat got stuck in shallow waters on Dam B in Tyler County. Crews they got there, but they couldn't get the boat out, so they called the Jasper County Emergency Corps, which brought in a larger, more powerful boat. After some effort, the hunters' boat was recovered and the hunters were safely freed. And those were the headlines from Southeast Texas.
Texas News Now is sponsored by Germania Insurance.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at germaniainsurance.com.